The first season of The Idol, entitled Jocelyn Forever, came to a most unsatisfying conclusion. We follow the idol, Jocelyn. I don't know if we ever learned her last name. I do not care about going back and finding out. She is an idol who is driven to be the very best, a once-in-a-generation artist without ever practicing. She will do anything but fucking practice. If that means electrocuting her friends, so be it. Messing up her other friend's record deal, so be it. But in the first bit of this episode, it appeared that she had seen the light.
You want me to leave? You gonna kick out your only source of inspiration?
Well, you've served your purpose.
I don't think so.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
She finally took a good look at this bum who was living in her house rent-free, doing no work, just being a big distraction, and she said, "What the hell are you doing here?" It wasn't his unconventional methods of using electric shock therapy on his crew, cult followers or whatever, that made Jocelyn see the light.
You're more fucking disgusting, fucked up, and depraved than your bitch cunt of a mother! Shock him again. Please, just don't fucking shock me again. Okay, fine. Fine, please.
It was the fact that Jennie from Blackpink brought her to the club.
He knew this like random backup dancer of mine, and he saw that I followed her on Instagram, and he'd been like obsessed with me for years, like back when he was in prison and stuff. And he had her like bring me to his club. And then he pointed me out on the dance floor, and he's like, "Is that Jocelyn? Oh
That's
my
not
God,
true.
you're here."
He didn't just see her randomly by chance. This was orchestrated. He wanted her there. He planned for this, and that made him a giant con man. He acted like he brought a prince by chance, but no, he didn't. He actually planned for this.
He was talking about When Doves Cry and Prince and everything, because she must have told him that I had this like huge poster of Prince upstairs.
I'm the one that pointed that out. I'm the one that pointed out the
You're a
coincidence.
fucking con man and a fraud.
Guess what? Most people fucking like Prince. There's nothing special or unique or interesting or different about you just because you like Prince. Everybody fucking knows that song, When Doves Cry.
Pop music is just superficial.
I think Prince would disagree with you.
I love Prince.
You're gonna call When Doves Cry fucking superficial?
No, I love that song.
Huh?
Even if you're not a hardcore Prince fan, you barely know who that guy is. You've probably heard that song before and you like it. Everybody knows that song. He said nothing insightful about the song. This YA book is called Like a Love Story. It references Madonna because she has the songs Like a Virgin and Like a Prayer, but she doesn't have a song called Like a Love Story. And they talk about this, and they even go to a Madonna concert towards the end of the book. If I were to take this book and if I were to take out any and all references to Madonna and just switch it out for Cyndi Lauper or something like that, it would take me quite a minute to do that. And again, I would have to change the title in order to do that. Whereas with The Idol, Prince was mentioned like 3 times in this show. She said, "Oh, pop music is so bad, la-di-da-da." I don't know what kind of music she prefers to listen to. If she prefers alternative, if she prefers indie music. We didn't get any expansion on that of, oh, well, what genre do you like? Do you like something like really experimental and out there? Who knows?
If that song came out today, it'd be a smash tomorrow.
So all I have to do is make music like Prince?
I didn't say that.
Yeah, it was a hit in the 1980s. After Prince died, it charted again. That is such a generic point that you could make about any hit song from decades ago that have withstood the test of time, so that people who were born after that song was released still know that song, still listen to that song. You could very easily switch out Prince with Michael Jackson, any really famous artist who made music a long time ago that really stood out a long time ago, but is still continued to be popular to this very day.
Pop music is like the ultimate Trojan horse. You get people to dance, you get people to sing along, you can say whatever you want. Shit's powerful.
I like you.
I was not impressed by what he said. And the way he said this, it's like this fake suaveness. There's this character from CSI Miami. Like, I just can't stand hearing him talk because he always has to be sideways. And he talks in this voice that's unnatural, but he's trying to sound cool. And the more he tries to sound cool, the more he doesn't sound cool.
It's not looking too good, Horatio.
On the contrary, there's a chance this girl is alive, and we are gonna find her.
So, calling Tedros a con man, that is overselling what he did.
And it was this whole fucking setup. This whole time, he had this crazy fucking plan. And it worked.
Fuck
you
you, Jocelyn.
It worked.
Super LA shit.
Fuck you, Mike.
When I think of the word con man, I'm thinking of Leo in Catch Me If You Can. I'm thinking of somebody who pulled off a deception so big, so clever, so smart. I don't even have room in my brain to be angry at them for doing something that's actually morally wrong, because I'm more impressed that they were able to get away with this deception, that they were able to think it up and play it off. And I don't know. He doesn't come across as a master manipulator. I don't know what the hell he added to this story. He has this group of minions. We know some about like 2 of them, but very little about everybody else. I was watching this episode. I was like, okay, which one was Sophie? Which one was Bianca? I don't remember ever really learning their names. We know nothing about their backstory. We know a bit about Chloe. She is far more musically talented than Jocelyn, and so is Izaak. Izaak is very musically talented. He would make a much better cult leader than this guy.
I told you I was...
Tedros didn't even try to win over Leia. Leia didn't like him from the start. She noticed that he had bad vibes from the start, and he just became more and more and more creepy as time went on. He didn't try to win her over, whereas
You wanna dance?
even though when Leia went to the club, she wasn't interested in dancing, she was trying to follow Jocelyn around and say, oh, I have your bag that you weren't even looking for. And she was asking the bartender for water and being like, hey, I asked for water 7 minutes ago. Where's my water? Instead of asking for alcohol. And she wasn't dancing or having fun or doing anything. Then she meets Izaak and he says, do you want to dance? And she is reluctant.
Is that a yes?
But of course she ends up dancing with him. There is that natural charisma there. There is the charm. We see this magnetism that Izaak has, and he's a lot better looking. He's fit. He's talented. There's just something about him that makes you interested in him and interested in what he has to say.
I know his methods could seem odd to outsiders, but it's his process. And it works.
Yeah, I think that it's great, but I don't think that it's like, I don't think it's worth it.
So I thought that it was interesting when it came to some of Tedros's philosophies that we learned in episode 3. Izaak was the one to deliver all of this information, and I felt like he did that a lot more convincingly than Tedros ever did. The way that we see Tedros, he's like unraveling in this episode, and he's just a nuisance. He's just a distraction. But when has he ever provided anything valuable that would make these other people listen to him?
How do you know Tedros?
He saved my life.
Huh.
Well, I was living on the streets. I was a heroin addict.
I can kind of understand where Chloe's coming from because Chloe is very young. And before she met Tedros, she was addicted to heroin. And good on Tedros for taking little Chloe out of that horrible environment and then setting her in an environment in a nightclub where she is surrounded with drugs, but she's not surrounded by the drug of her choice that ruined her life. But she still has access to illegal drugs that could be addictive and that are dangerous. So in her head, I guess I can see that that's a win. But again, If we're thinking the ends justify the means, Tedros is able to bring something out of these people that they can't bring those things out themselves. As I keep saying with Jocelyn, all this girl needs to do is practice. Practice. Show up to your music video shoot on time. Don't waste time riding on top of a glass of water so that it breaks on your thighs and so that you're injured and you show up 3 hours late to your music video shoot. Actually spend that time practicing and you'd be amazed at how smoothly the rest of your career goes.
I'm crying alone.
Yeah, so your tongue wants to retreat. So that's why it's covered. Ooh, but you want it out. Ooh, and then let it spin with the vibrato.
Within an hour of meeting Chloe for the first time, Destiny hears her music and is able to give her constructive criticism that makes her music sound better. If Tedros was such an amazing genius who brought the best out of Chloe, why would it take Destiny so little time to find something that Chloe needed to improve? She should be a master of using different vocal techniques to get the best sound out. I do think that just some basic vocal coaching could work a lot better than that whole electric shock therapy situation. And I'd say with this scene with Chloe and Destiny, you hear a before and after. You hear, well, when she sang it this way, it sounded good, but after Destiny gave her that criticism, she tried it again using that advice and she sounded great. It sounded so much better.
I'm crying.
Yeah,
Crying alone. I'm crying alone.
Yeah.
We don't see that with Tedros. We've never seen here's where they were before, but then here's where Tedros brought them to a new level. We only see that with Jocelyn when he just like sticks his hands inside her while she is singing. And again, I think that other techniques could be utilized, such as discipline and practice, that would make her the artist that she says she wants to be. I don't know what his pull is over Izaak, who again would make a much better cult leader than this guy. Don't know what he has over any of the other characters, Xander even. This show leaves us with a lot more questions than it does with answers, and not in a good way. As I was watching, I kept on thinking of, oh, there are other movies or TV shows or books or whatever that have dealt with similar themes, but really knocked it out of the park in a way that this one just didn't. Black Swan, for example, that teacher was fucking creepy. However, Natalie Portman's character practiced. She practiced so many times, and if the problems that she had could have been fixed by practicing more, she would have practiced more. She would have practiced until her legs fell off. But we see that that is not the issue that Natalie Portman's character Nina has. And we see where she is first struggling with her dance and how his criticisms bring something else out of her that she needs in order to do a good performance. His methods are whack, of course, even though when we watch Black Swan, we're thinking, oh, he's crossing this line, she should report him, blah, blah, blah. He has power over her. He's very important. She can't just fire him, whereas Jocelyn could say to Tedros, hey, get the fuck out of my house. Easy, easy. Just call the police. Hey, there's this guy living here and he doesn't pay rent. He refuses to leave. He can get his ass out. But Nina does not have that power over her teacher slash casting director slash artistic director, so on and so forth. She doesn't have that power over him. He's mentored amazing ballerinas, very knowledgeable about the art, whereas we haven't seen Tedros be super knowledgeable on music. We heard Jocelyn say, oh, he knows so much about music, but we haven't seen any examples of him knowing a lot about music. He just surrounds himself with people who are talented, and he's able to coast off of their hard work and take credit for their hard work. And that is what happens when Jocelyn's team comes and meets Tedros. He pretty much cusses out Nikki.
If we're gonna be working with each other, that we're able to trust each other, right? Yeah. And there's no fucking Judas in the room.
Oh, okay, so I'm Judas?
That's right. That's right, I'm looking at you.
What? Dude, I've never even met you before.
She is blown away by the talent of Tedros' squad, and she's like, you are the real mastermind behind this. And again, we haven't shown him being the mastermind behind this. Surrounding yourself with talented people. As far as we know, he was in the right place at the right time. Again, we haven't seen him bring things out of these people that they couldn't have gotten from anywhere else. So it just all fell very flat for me. But Jocelyn's able to give a performance of her lifetime. She says she wants to be like a once in a generation artist, but she has a very small bag of tricks that she draws from, and the only trick that she knows how to really exploit to the best of her ability is her sexuality. It gets a little old. It's more noteworthy when you have a pop artist, a female pop artist, who isn't using her sexuality in exactly the same way that Jocelyn is. To me, it's like she didn't really show me anything that I haven't seen before, but she did execute it well. I'm gonna say, since she doesn't practice, this was probably some improvised dancing rather than some rehearsed choreography that was planned out. But again, she sold it. She really sold the show, and they were like, okay, we're gonna put you on tour. And Jocelyn told Haim that she is through.
I read it to my little daughter the other night. It's a fucking crazy story.
And so he recounts the story of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. And I'm like, Haim, you can read me fairy tales any day, any day. This is so compelling. I'm rubbing my hands together with glee and with anticipation. Oh, what's going to happen? How is all of this going to play out?
Jams it into the wolf's guts and snip, snip, snip. She keeps ripping the wolf open, the wolf screaming. You don't care. Out comes the grandma and Little Red Riding Hood. They're holding hands, and there's not a scratch on their bodies. Thank God. So now's when the story gets really weird. Because Little Red Riding Hood gets this brilliant idea.
So anticlimactic. We get a time jump, and then we're told after the fact what happened.
Yeah, and most importantly, that psychopath is out of our lives.
Oh, yeah, got rid of him.
God, that fucking gonif. The fucking guy was like herpes. We couldn't even fucking get rid of him.
Tell me about it.
Do you know who fucking did it? You fucking sniper,
That's right.
Talia, that
That's right.
fucking Vanity Fair
Talia
article.
is hot.
You know what? It's got to be one of my biggest issues with this show. It's just a lot of these plot points that were brought up earlier, such as the facial picture, never gets brought up again. There were all these characters that were introduced, never get brought up again. They don't really matter. Instead of introducing all these different storylines, and instead of showing me these very graphic and very repetitive sex scenes that add absolutely nothing to the story, why don't you then stick to the storylines that you actually choose to stick with until the very end and actually develop them and show me the most interesting parts of those storylines. I wanted to see Tedros get brought down, and Haim was like, he's done, and they really oversold it, and it was just so annoying that we hear through dialogue what happened to Tedros instead of us actually seeing it play out. But instead we saw Jocelyn and Tedros have sex in a car and have sex in a dressing room because that was way more important to the storyline. I like this scene where everybody else in the group is practicing except for Jocelyn, while she's sitting back chilling because she doesn't practice. She doesn't need to practice. She just needs to sabotage everybody else's career. We saw this with Jennie from Blackpink, and now we are seeing this with Xander.
Mom didn't fucking like that I was a good singer or some shit, so she fucking
Made you sign a fucking contract?
Yeah.
What the fuck did you say?
I said the fucking truth,
That's
Jocelyn.
not fucking true, Xander.
Yes, it
what the fuck is wrong with you?
When Xander was shocked in the last episode, he said that he had to sign some sort of contract. He made up this lie that he no longer sung because he had a vocal injury, when really it was Jocelyn. I guess as a way to get back at her, he had her ex-boyfriend get falsely accused of rape, and then we never really hear about that storyline in the 6 week after section. Maybe I shouldn't say that because I tried to rewatch this episode just to make sure I had all my facts right, but then some scary demon took over my computer, and so I had to And so I had to shut that shit down. Think that a better way for Xander to get back at Jocelyn would be to just come forward about the whole electric shock treatment and about the shadiness of him signing a contract that he wouldn't sing because she felt threatened by him. Get her canceled instead of her ex-boyfriend. If her ex-boyfriend is able to defend himself and everybody finds out that Xander lied, one, that's going to reflect very badly on him, but then he can't come forward about the abusive treatment that he experienced at the hands of Jocelyn, because who would believe him after that? Then the question remains, should we, the audience, believe Xander when he said what he said while he was being electrocuted? I would say perhaps maybe, considering that we find out that the whole hairbrush story wasn't actually true. For whatever reason, we spend about like 20 minutes of Tedros wandering around the stadium right before Jocelyn's first show. And there was so much anticipation, so much build up to this tour. We don't see any of it. We see very little about the production of the songs, but we don't see what happens when they were released. We only know that they were hits. We don't know if there were music videos. We don't know what her album cover looks like, even though the opening scene is of her at a photo shoot working on her album cover. And then in episode 3, there's that huge conversation about what her album cover should look like, you know, with the whole facial selfie situation. Then that's dropped like a hot potato, just like the whole facial storyline. The show ends before the show actually begins. We don't actually see the tour. We don't actually see any part of the concert, which would have been nice. We just see that Jocelyn introduces Tedros to her audience, much to their horror, because Tedros was supposed to be dealt with. He's done for good, because somebody wrote an article about him. This show has great cinematography. The soundtrack is so amazing. Lily Rose Depp is a great actress. The Weeknd, not so much. A lot of the cast that was in this show were very good, very talented, very compelling. Izaak, especially, as I mentioned, would make a much better cult leader than this guy.
I ain't gay.
We spend a lot of time on things that don't really come to fruition, that don't really lead anywhere. And then there's all this other crap that has no build up to it at all. There's no real explanation of why we went from get this man out of my life to he's the love of my life, I need to introduce him to all my fans. How was he even allowed to go from, oh, I don't want to intrude into your house, to I'm gonna fire your chef, but I'm not going to cook any healthy, nutritious meals for you. I'm going to completely take over and cancel all of your meetings that could negatively affect your career. We don't see what happened to allow all these other things to happen. It's just so disjointed and a mess. It's a complete mess. In my last video about this goddamn show, I mentioned I was going to cancel my HBO subscription, but do you know what they did to me? They threw another discount my way. Never again. I regret it. I regret the discount. But please, write in the comments down below, what are some things that you actually like that's on HBO Max? Because I've already committed to it for this month, I might as well watch something worthwhile, right? And also for the rest of the people who are in the same boat as me, I'm sure they want to watch something worthwhile as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.